Hello and welcome back to Hey Moon Eyes. We will be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after basically Revri, the guy on the right, is basically being pulled along by Gary, the brother of the guy on the left, in order to keep these two company on the last day before before Duncan and Revri are supposed to leave on a really long mission in space. And Revri doesn't really know why he's still being allowed to tag along, but he's like more than happy because he likes the guy on the left, or at the very least he was hitting on him and he wishes to know more about this person, and he's more than happy to just tag along, even though the guy on the left is like, I just wanted to spend time with my brother before I leave. You're more than welcome to leave and I'll catch up with you after we leave together, but it's not gonna happen. Gary, the brother of the guy on the left, just does not want to let it happen. But he has his reasons because, well, you'll see. You'll see. But anyways, so, what else? Revri comes from a culture, planet, place where they don't really have names like we do. Instead, they have what's called a verse, which I suppose is sort of like a poetic way of saying like, of Revri and what he's known for, or something like that. Which is, I believe his name is Revri with a Pardace, but I think he has Who Remembers or something like that as part of the name. Which does have to do with his past, which we will find out about later. Duncan also has his own verse, but I forgot about it already. Because he spent some time in Revri's around the general area of where Revri is, which is something that Revri kind of like was into, because it's like, oh hey, this person knows about my culture and stuff. But yeah, so that's another reason why he's attracted to him, I guess. But yeah, so without further ado, let us continue Hey Moon Eyes. Gary sat on the bed, clothes dry and an empty look on his face. When he looked up, he smiled, but his eyes were red, and he rubbed his cheeks with his sleeve. Done with your makeout session already? You look like shit. You found your face coming over? You knelt by him, hand on his shoulder. You joked, but there was an intensity underneath. You're okay, yeah? It sounded as though you were reassuring yourself more than him. He shrugged you off. You threw me in the pool, ass face. He sniffled, looking even sadder and more pathetic. I got chlorine in my eyes, dick. And what about you? What about me? You're throwing me in the pool just so that you can have a quickie with your boyfriend? Have some shame. You punched his shoulder and he smiled again. Fuck you. You pulled him into a wet hug and he squirmed in a futile effort to shake you off. I just got changed, idiot. Get off. I should have thrown you on the airlock. Yeah, thanks a bunch. Hope it made you feel better. As a matter of fact, it did. You peeled your shirt off and tossed it onto the bed. You're gonna change now? You got a problem with that all of a sudden? Yeah, he's here. He swung an accusatory finger in Revri's direction. I don't want to watch you and your boyfriend get frisky. My boyfriend can't take a peek? Revri's ears grew hot and he dragged a hoof across the floor with a discordant scrape. The way you laughed made him want to turn around, but the sound of Gary throwing something at you put an end to that selfish thought. This was your idea. Come on, take a look, Rev. Revri stared into the corner, idly tapping his hooves and thinking about which shades of gray each of the panels and pipes along the wall were. It would not be appropriate. See? Even he thinks you're disgusting. Get in the shower, you're getting the floor wet. There was a sound of feet shuffling. Revri assumed Gary was shoving you to the bathroom. A little exhibitionism never. Hey! That's rude, Gary. Your voice was muffled behind the door. Dumbass. Gary turned around and pranced across the room to grab Revri's arm. He likes you. He pumped his fist in the air. Truthfully, it is hard for me to read humans, though. I enjoy his company, even in the short time that I know he is clever, responsible, fascinating, kind, and... Save it for Duncan, big guy. He fell back on your bed and sighed. I mean it. Say that again when he gets out of the shower. He'll love it. I believe you, but I can tell that our impending departure weighs upon him. He's a nice guy, I promise. He's never been good at saying bye. No one is. This is no easy thing, but you bear this burden well. He laughed, but it seemed wrong. Yeah, well, you don't laugh, you'll cry. He sat up, and for a breath it looked like he had tears in his eyes, but he shook them off with a wistful smile and pulled himself back together. Finally, some good luck. Gary stared at Revri and chewed on his words while Revri lost himself in a flight of fancy. Hey, so tomorrow morning-ish, me and Duncan are having breakfast. You should swing by the place. You two can walk to the launch together. I'll send you the details. Would he welcome my presence? Revri took a moment to walk around the room. It was larger than his own and modestly decorated. Yep, sure would. Plain silver walls, a cold metallic floor, and a pair of dressers built beneath the bed. A few crude and colorful drawings of stick figure families hung above the bed, and a framed photo of you and your brother on the nightstand besides. My girls drew those for him. Cute, huh? Then another of you holding two small girls, one still a baby and the other hardly taller than your knee. Your nieces, he assumed. You looked so happy then. Revri frowned. He could still not understand why. A loud cough. Are you all right? Heartburn. Sorry, heartburn. Making me feel weird. So you coming to breakfast? Duncan's too shy to ask you. The lie should have been obvious. Duncan, whose sales was never shy, you acted boldly and did not hesitate to take what you wanted. Although getting you to say what you wanted was another matter entirely. But Revri needed an excuse, and he had not come to know you then. I graciously accept. Gary exhaled as though he had been holding his breath all day. Oh, thank God. He melted into the bed as his shoulders relaxed and his jaw unclenched. His fist opened and he put his hands over his chest. Looking at your discarded shirt, he took your badge and laughed. This is the picture they used? Damn it, Duncan. He always sucked at pictures. He ran his fingers over the photo and the mask slipped for a single counted breath. He looks good. Tough. He sat up and looked around the room. They really skimped on the rooms considering how much this big bastard costs. Can you believe he's making me sleep on the floor? I couldn't get a hotel or something. He grabbed one of the pillows and gave it a cursory squeeze. Satisfied, he hid it under your bed. If it was any smaller, it'd be a broom closet. His room is slightly larger than mine, but I do not have a shower. What? It is of little consequence. But what about bathing? Communal bathing was common on Pardachi. He can use my shower if he wants. You emerged shirtless from the bathroom and winked. All right, I'm all cleaned up. You can turn around now. You looked at your brother. His face and eyes were still red. You sure you're okay? You crouched in front of him and he turned away, unable to hold your gaze. Yeah, fine. All right, I sent you tomorrow's schedule. We'll get off the ship early and beat the crowd. I can't believe people are gonna be lining up to watch a big dumb ship leave. Lucky you. You can skip the line. You sat on your bed and started pulling on your shoes. Gary could not look at you. His eyes were glassy and Revri was certain that he heard a small pained whine escape him. After a couple of Bloody Marys at breakfast, a hard light projection was shoved in your face. Gary, what the fuck? Hi girls, it's me and Uncle Dunk. We're in space. You bit back the curse and forced a smile. What the fudge are you doing? I'm recording a video for the girls so they can see your room. Hey girls, how are my favorite nieces? Uncle Dunk has a boyfriend. Gary turned the projection towards Revri. Say hi, Rev. Hello, I am Revri of Pardacci who remembers. He bowed and showed his tusks. He's an alien. Extrasolar life form, and he's not my boyfriend. You smiled through the screen at Revri. I like him though. Your dad's been taking pictures. Of everything, and I got you some souvenirs. T-shirts, a little stuffy, a model of the ship, and... How are you getting all that home? They ship it. Intergalactic shipping ain't cheap. It's... Well, okay, it's not. Maybe I should, don't worry about it. And hey, Gary. You pointed at the screen. It was still facing Revri. Oh, sorry. He swiped the screen back around before you took it from him. This is my room, for the skip. Not half bad, huh? There's a pool and a library, lots of cool sciencey stuff. You'd love it. You spend the next several minutes gushing to your nieces and sister-in-law. You were so animated and joyful Revri had wondered if you were the same person that he had spent the last several hours with. The bags under your eyes softened, and your perpetual glower was gone. Every other thing that you said was I love you and I will miss you, and how you wish that you could share the adventure with them. Revri could not stop himself from feeling envious. You had so much, yet you were still leaving. Why? The realization filled him with a deep shame that found him staring at his hooves. He looked up when your voice began to crack, and he saw the tremble in your palm. It's, real good and... Rev, tell them where you've been. Like, different planets and stuff. I have visited the 3 habitable worlds in the Pachi cluster, and I have been to Mars. Gary frowned and rolled his wrists. Anywhere else? It is only recently that I have spent time out of the Pardacci cluster. You laughed at your brother. We're going to Mars for Christmas. Stella's parents live there now. Snowbirds. Christmas without snow? How's Santa supposed to find you? You winked. Gary did not falter. He nodded sagely and declared with absolute certainty. Christmas magic. Won't the reindeer suffocate flying through space? Gary leaned in close, the smile never leaving his face. If you ruin Santa for my girls, it doesn't matter how far you'll go. I'll find you and kill you dead. They have spacesuits. And magic. Christmas magic. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Your dad's a smart one. And hey, look! You scooted to the side to reveal the wall behind you that held those colorful drawings. Upon closer inspection, Revri saw what must have been the names written beneath each of the figures. One even wore an orange coat like yours. I saved the drawings, even framed them. Your voice cracked, but you squashed the feelings with a bright smile and no small amount of pride. Speaking of Christmas, an impish glimmer flickered in your eyes, another thing you shared with your brother. I need the room for a sec, for a surprise. Boo, why? Give me my phone back. No, I need it. 2 minutes. Fine. Gary conceded with a little protest, and Revri bowed. As you wish. Wait! Gary grabbed the device and spun the screen around. Bow again. Christ. You don't have to do it. Revri bowed again, and deeper and more exaggerated. If it was for their children, why not? Though he did wonder if it was more for Gary than his daughters. Gary giggled and slapped his leg. They're gonna get a kick out of that. You took the phone back and shoved Gary to the door. Get out of here. Before the door closed, Revri looked over Gary and passed you to the pictures on the wall, bright and colorful and full, the only color on the gray walls. He better not have bought the girls a fucking pony or something. Gary leaned against the wall in the way that humans always seem to do, but he seemed guilty, nervous, hands in his pockets, glancing back at the door, failing to make eye contact. So, Revri, did you have any fun plans ruined? You ruined nothing. The evening has exceeded my expectations. Once I had given Duncan who sails my thanks, I will return to my room. Your room that's just big enough to stand in? It is acceptable. I do not need much space. I will only be there when sleeping or reading or meditating. If you say so, still sounds too small. Between his questions, Gary would glance back at the door, waiting. I will need to refresh my knowledge of our survey equipment. That will occupy many evenings. That's work. This place is like a luxury cruise ship. What do you do for fun? Revri ran his fingers through his braid. Outside of a few amenities and the lobby, much of the ship was starkly utilitarian. Even your room was all gray panels and simple lights, but he saw no reason to shatter Gary's illusions. I like to meditate. It is relaxing. I will make use of the library, and if allowed, I would like to garden. If I cannot have a personal garden, the hydroponics crew will doubtless appreciate my bulk. He flexed to demonstrate his strength and fitness. The display was wasted on Gary. Save it for Duncan, big fella. Gary muttered. Revri pretended not to hear, but his tail swished away behind him, traitorous thing. That's still work. It is fulfilling and joyful work. It satisfies me knowing that I will be contributing to our new community, and these tasks remind me of my home. You're real sentimental, huh? That's why you wear this whole thing? He gestured at the cloak and pointed at the necklace dangling in the center of Revri's chest. Yes, it contains soil and seeds. I will carry my home with me always. Aw, that's sweet. You gotta start saying that stuff to Duncan. He acts gruff and tough, but he's a big teddy bear. The door hissed open, and you wiped your eyes. I'm taking a walk. You two coming? Let's go to Revri's room. Why? I want to compare them. He says you have a bigger room than him. I'm sure his is just the right size. Another human double meaning. This one was easy to guess, but your sudden change in tone poisoned it. Gross. Gary took his phone back and scrolled. Where's the video? Sent it to Stella and deleted it. What? You asshole! Do you even know what surprises mean? That better be a good surprise. You kept glancing sidelong at your brother while he attempted to goad you into surrendering the details of your surprise. Come on. Watch where you're going or you'll trip again. Never. Tell me, brother. No, you'll see when you get home. When I get home? That'll be weeks. Are you taking a skip? No way, that's expensive. I'm riding a standard transit craft, got myself a nice little cabin. For the price to take the skip, I could get first class on a cruiser. Get first class. If you're gonna spend weeks in space, do it nice. I had to sell my kidneys to book this late. Whatever. Send me your trip info. Why? Do you gotta ask why every time? Yes? I want to see how long you'll be traveling. What for? See if you'll miss a surprise. Better take a skip, just in case. Easy for you to say. Revri listened to your conversation closely. Gary explained his finances in detail. While teachers and mechanics were paid reasonably, well, they were not paid enough for luxury travel. Your brother looked to Revri and scratched his chin. Hey Rev, what do you do for work? Like, I get surveyor or security, but like, before. I was a farmer. Oh, right. I think you said something about that. About, fulfilling work. Indeed it was. Then, why did you stop? You hissed and Revri grimaced. Gary. Things changed. Right, sorry. Are we close to your room? Yes. The rest of the walk was muted, save for the sound of footsteps and hooves clattering against the floor. Welcome. Please sit where you would like. Revri's room had the same gray-silver walls and floors, but was smaller than yours by a third. Where you had pictures of your family, Revri had a collection of potted plants, and on the floor in front of his bed, he had placed a modest monocolor rug and a simple cushion for meditation. In place of a dresser, there was a small wardrobe built into the wall by the door. Inside was a device for reheating food and drink, and at the foot of his bed there was an old metal locker that contained a few personal effects. You don't have much stuff, do you? I think it's cozy. You said, looking around the room and nearly elbowing your brother as you turned. Cozy? Try small. He shouldered past you into the room. I have my meditation mat, several changes of clothing and essential hygiene products. I have lived with less. You reached towards a plant with a vibrant green stem and purple blooms, but paused before touching it. Instead, you leaned forward to smell it. Makes my room seem lifeless by comparison. You like to garden? You got time for it? I will make time. It is a great joy to watch a thing I planted grow. I am excited to see what wonders may grow in a distant galaxy. That's sweet. You put your hand on Revri's forearm, but when you saw your brother's smirk, you withdrew. Oh, what you reading? He pulled a white covered and loosely bound thing from the shelf, scoffed, and then held it at arm's length like it were a great danger. A guidebook? Seriously? No comics? No pulpy adventures? There's a library. Still, he's gotta want to do something other than you every night. Shut up. I have been reviewing the emergency procedures and protocols. I told my team to do the same, but don't think that they have though. It is more interesting reading than it first appears. I am particularly intrigued by the emergency scenarios presented. They are, imaginative. Gary threw the cover open and flipped through the many pages until he found what he was after. Pop quiz. Revri, what's Scenario 27? Hostile intelligent life. And how should you respond? Attempt to establish communications. Prepare point defense systems. If communication fails, self-defense is authorized. Very good, very good. Duncan, Scenario 6? Star goes supernova as we arrive. And what? What do you do? You and Revri shared a confused glance and then laughed at each other. Pick a god and pray. And perhaps find some company for our final moments. You know where I'm staying, big guy. That's not what it says in the book. You shook your head. It was nonsense scenarios that always ended in certain death. power to radiation shields, then pray. Happy? Close enough. He flipped through the manual, his smile growing smaller and smaller with each turn of the page. Are any of these scenarios good? Scenario 99. Friendly and welcoming intelligent life integrates us into their society. I hope it's that one. As do I. Gary the optimistic. Okay, next is... Scenario 13. You pluck the book from his hand. Crash landing. Enough with the quiz. That's not what it says, but... He fell backwards onto Revri's bed, grabbed one of the pillows and gave it a probing squeeze. Don't even think about it. He returned the pillow and sat up. You stopped to look at a scroll hanging from the wall, a simple Pardachi prayer meant to protect travelers. You silently mouthed it before sitting next to your brother. It'll be good to have fresh ingredients. Was worried that we'd be on rations for years. You are a chef? I grill. Nothing beats a juicy burger with fresh vegetables, except maybe steaks, or ribs, hot dogs. I can almost smell it. I am more inclined to eat produce than meats when possible. You blinked and coughed into your fist. Grilled veggies are good too. My favorite even. No, there aren't. Whenever you cook, you always joke about how it's not a real meal without meat and When Gary met your gaze, he shrunk, then turned to Revri and smiled. Kidding. I look forward to sharing a meal with you, Duncan. You adjust your cap and showed him your tusks. Do you now? Forgive my, presumption. Not presumptuous at all. Of course, we got a lot of work to do first. First on the ship, then the colony. At least then we'll be off the ship. I'm looking forward to my hooves being buried in the soil. You and me both. Wonder what kind of foods will grow there. If the star harbors life, we will surely be able to grow something from our seed stores. He sighed and felt his heart taken by the fantasy. But not too warm. I'm not keen on desert living. Whatever the case, it will be a great joy and wonder to experience a star in a place so far from home. For now, might be a black hole by the time that we arrive. Scenario 136. Gary looked confused, but was smiling nonetheless. Why would it be a black hole? 2 weeks isn't 2 weeks in skip time. Gary touched his forehead, his chest, and then each of his shoulders, right then left, in a well-practiced motion. Evil magic. It's not magic. If it's not magic, what does SKIP stand for? Why does it matter what it stands for? Space, something, inner, something, portal, something. That is incorrect. I don't need to know the dang acronym. You're missing the point. He grabbed and shook you, and Revri noticed you were much more accommodating to his jokes and displays of mischief than you have been earlier in the evening. What if I miss my kids' milestones? What if my wife is an old lady, a crone? You raised an eyebrow. He paused, sensing his grave error. A beautiful, dignified, downright venerable old lady. What if she finds somebody else? She should. Skip or no skip. She wouldn't, though. I know. He smiled proudly, then grabbed your shoulders, shook you again, more intensely, and listed off all the possible things that could go wrong with evil space-time magic. Revri chuckled. Most of his scenarios involved his wife leaving him for someone more handsome and younger, richer, or even his own clone who had a mustache. He held an ocean of love for her. You don't gotta worry about that. Relax, Jesus. It's about relativity, moving fast versus standing still. Probably. That doesn't sound right. You threw your arms behind your head and fell back on the bed. I don't need to know how it works. You are not moving fast enough nor far enough for it to be significant. At most, a day or two will pass while you are in localized skip. That's good. He became small again and put his hands in his lap. Eyes darted to you and then to Revri, then back to his lap. He was afraid. What about you guys? How long? You sat upright and cleared your throat. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. Revri did not notice the change in mood. He was only too happy to answer the question. We are moving away from the system at faster-than-light speeds. Our skip is expected to last 2 weeks, the longest skip in history. Which means what exactly? It doesn't matter. The gap in perspective time will be substantially longer if you were in a localized skip. It doesn't matter. Your shoulders slumped and you pulled your hat over your eyes. Gary trembled, but could not stop himself from asking another question. How much longer? It's just some fucking math, who cares? Revri should have stopped, but it was too late. 2 weeks for us will be decades. A century? 2? Perhaps more, perhaps less. The math becomes strange when... Who cares? You jumped from the bed, and all the life drained from you through your feet and into the cold floor. I'm tired. Gary cleared his throat and laughed, a strangled and choked laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. Time flies when, we did a lot of walking around today, huh? He turned away and failed to suppress a giggle. You sure you don't want to stay here with your boyfriend? He clasped his hands together, held them up to his cheek, and stood on his tippy toes making mwah-mwah sounds. Revri did not understand, but it made him smile and brought his life back to the place. Get a head start on smooching? Even with your face hidden behind your hand, Revri could see you smiling. Fuck you. You're no fun. Bye, Revri. Thanks for being a good sport. Don't let the bedbugs bite. There are no bugs on the ship. You grunted and patted his arm as you squeezed and then stopped in the doorway. Hey, by the way. You removed your hat, a show of respect. Drop me a note sometime. We can hang out. Share a drink or a snack or whatever. You know. Your arm remained on his. You withdrew slowly to put your cap back on, and Revri immediately missed the warmth. I would be honored. Aww, a date? If it makes you happy, sure, a date. Revri's tail whipped behind him when you winked, and he began to think that perhaps you were not simply entertaining your brother. You exchanged information. Revri did not say so, but he was excited to talk to you again, and even more excited, you did not dismiss it as a date. Revri showed you his tusks, and smiled even wider when you showed him yours. We'll catch up tomorrow. Sweet dreams. Good night, Duncan who sails, and Gary the optimistic. Bye. Dream of Duncan without a shirt. Revri dreams of Duncan naked. Leave your door unlocked, then Duncan can sneak over and You stomped on his foot and threw him out the door. You are welcomed any time. How could I decline the company of a man who has moon in his eyes? I really like how you talk. Good night. From down the hall, you shouted back to Revri. Careful what you wish for. I might show up in the dead of night. Revri cherished the words and caught the last of your brother's voice. See? Was that so bad? Awful. Then the door closed and all that he heard was you and your brother laughing, at what he could only guess or hope. He allowed himself a moment to celebrate before removing his cloak and turning in for the night. But once the moment passed, he felt lonely and cold, and he found that he had already missed your company. In such a short time, he had grown to appreciate the company of others again, the company of friends. When was the last time that he had done such a simple thing? Friends? Already? Huh. It was common knowledge that humans form attachments faster than any other species in the galaxy. Had you influenced him so much in the span of one evening? Revri paced, his hoofbeats inaudible over his thoughts. His attempts to meditate failed. He replayed the evening's events in his mind over and over. From the bar where you first caught his attention, to the way that he could just talk to you, to the pool where he caught a glimpse of something deeper, to your room where the pictures of your family hung on the wall. It did not make any sense to him. Why would a man who seems to have everything leave it all behind? Envy threatened his joy. When was the last time that he was surrounded by family? Years? Decades? Would he ever be again? Yet you were choosing to go. Why? Envy, confusion, and, to his shame, anger? Not at you, but at everything, everyone. The injustice of it, the cruelty and the... No. Revri knelt on the floor and put his paws on his lap. He would not let his envy or his pain ruin the evening's mood. He shut his eyes and focused on his breath and sought stillness. Why would you leave them behind? The thought floated through his consciousness, and with an exhale, he sent it away, allowing a new thought to enter his mind. Everything you had, Revri wanted, but you were leaving it. He exhaled. He would not let them define the evening or himself. He did not know your feelings, the reasons why or the circumstances that led you to this. But he knew, even in this short time, that you loved your family dearly. And they loved you too. He trusted that you were making the right decision. But was he? Did he even know his own feelings? He let these thoughts float away. He watched them like ripples in a pond or clouds in the sky, pleasant things to observe, not to touch. Until eventually, stillness. He basked in it for some minutes, just enough time to become calm. Then he rose, stretched and lay on his bed, stared at the ceiling. He did not understand you, but he wanted to, no matter the reasons or circumstances that had brought either of you here. Together, tonight had been a wonder for him. That was enough. What are you looking for, Duncan who sails? His thoughts were not of the coming mission or solving the mysteries of the universe and some new world and a new galaxy. They were of you. A powerful urge overtook him, one he would not be able to resist. He wanted, needed, the night to last, to bask in your company, and there was only one way that he could do that. He wanted to message you. To say good night. I look forward to our meeting tomorrow. But he struggled with the words. None of them sounded right. I am honored to call you my friend. I eagerly await our next meeting. He gasped at his own audacity. Then again, you had appreciated his boldness in the bar. But he had heard once that humans do not like to receive messages from prospective partners or friends too soon. When courting a human, you have to keep it cool, whatever that meant. The worst thing he could do was look desperate. They like cool. Yes, Revri could be cool. Calm, like you. You are cool. I am cool. Why was he behaving so foolishly? He was grown now. There was no place for these tusks, these infatuations. If only he had come to understand you sooner. Instead, he tormented himself. Should he go to breakfast tomorrow? Should he message you? What should the message say? Your brother insisted that it was fine, but... He brought his hands to his face and thumbed his wrists to summon the screen. Thanks for hanging out today. See you soon. You messaged him first? How much of what he'd heard of humans was true? Did this mean you... No, of course not. You were not like any of the other humans that he had worked with or fought besides. You were different. You had a verse. You showed him your tusks. You were unlike anyone that he had ever met, regardless of species. He wanted to know you. That is all that he wanted. It seemed harmless. Revri tapped away at his screen with a smile on his face, ignorant of what knowing you would do to him. I am eager to see you again. He had said before he could talk himself out of it. What's your schedule like? It would have been rude to make you wait for an answer. I have morning physical training, and from the afternoons to the evenings, I am volunteering time whenever strong labor is required. Cool. I'm in the comms tower all day, except when I'm running training or doing maintenance on satellites in the machine bay. Anyway, good night. Revri replied with his thanks, and then you responded with a question, which of course he had to answer, and before either of you knew it, what was happening, the night began to melt away. All through the night you exchanged messages. You wondered about the weather there, and Revri asked if you thought Santa could find you if it snowed. He could, obviously. Revri pondered the edible plant life, what would find a place in his garden. You only asked that you got to sample the harvest and make a meal of it for him. You happily agreed. Talk of adventure, of the things that you would do together, filled the evening. The promise of a new life was enthralling, but his eyes grew heavy. I have enjoyed our conversation and look forward to spending time with you, but I will let you rest. He said, believing that he would. I'm not going to get any sleep. Gary snores. Revri smiled at the screen and tapped out another message. If you were going to stay up, well, why not? 1 or 2 more messages would not hurt anyone. The hours continued to pass without a moment between messages, and he did not know or understand what this would become. In his ignorance, he smiled and laughed along at every message, each ping of his messenger sending a trill of excitement through him. He could not know, but even if he did, he would have done it anyway. Revri was not able to tell when he fell asleep, but when he woke up with a smile. His clock warned him that he had gotten mere hours of rest, but he was refreshed all the same. He knelt on the floor for a few minutes of meditation, as he did every morning, and found it much easier to reach his desired stillness than the night before. He rose to check his messages and read through the ship's announcements. As usual, they were mostly superfluous and self-congratulatory, press releases rather than memos to the crew. There was to be some speech or celebration that he would not attend. He had better places to be. He did take a moment to sign up for some advanced first aid classes, not because you were teaching them, of course, but because he needed to maintain those skills. With work messages out of the way, he checked his personals. It was only a handful of hours ago that you sent a final good night, Rev. He wondered if he should message you, but decided that it was best not to disturb you this morning. By now you were out and about with your brother, and you had been clear about how important the time was. If he had taken only a moment to consider the invitation, he would have known better, but he once again allowed himself to believe your brother was right. Lost in thought, he only caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror showing his tusks to no one at all, but then he noticed the state of himself. Tusks. He cursed. His fur was out of sorts, his tusks looked dull, and his braid was fraying. Hopefully the crew had not noticed. He was a professional and he must look the part. He rummaged through his chest and donned his cloak. The previous night's gala was a proper occasion for formal dress, but in a moment of indulgence, he donned it again. He told himself that it was for the ship's departure, but the truth was that he wanted to wear it for you. He grabbed his soaps and brushes and left to clean up. He did not notice the forlorn stares, or the excited murmurs, or the tension that filled the ship's halls like a heavy, suffocating fog. He was excited to see you, to enjoy your company. How rich he was, then, that his greatest concern was the state of his braids. The journey of a lifetime meant nothing to him. It certainly meant less than basic grooming and the fixing the wrinkles in his cloak. He was too busy polishing the tips of his tusks to hear the muted cries in one of the showers. Caring for his fur was a chore. He was reminded why he rarely did this. He had difficulties reaching his back and getting the appropriate angle to brush his mane. He smiled at himself in the mirror when he imagined you standing behind him, brushing it for him. "You are being a fool, Revri of Pardacci." He laughed when he got into the hall. Were he not lost in his reverie, he would have noticed his laugh was strange and alien in those halls. Would you show him your tusks when you saw him? Compliment how polished and well-kept his tusks and mane were? He laughed at himself and discarded the fantasy. It was not appropriate. But what harm would there be in a compliment from a friend? With one last look to ensure everything was in order, he left, looking as sharp as his tusks, still blissfully unaware that he was the only one smiling. "Pardon me. Sorry, I did not mean. Excuse me. No running through the halls." The reality of the situation caught up to him quickly. The stoic faces and empty eyes squashed his laughter as the heavy fog fell over him too. He pushed against the crowd and thought perhaps he should not have spent so much time grooming. Vanity always carries a price. The halls were frantic and overrun. Engineers and mechanics scurried about with their tools. Carts full of supplies moved through the place like river barges, forging through everyone to crowd against the edges of the halls. Seeing how difficult getting anywhere was, Revri was glad that he had already had his few possessions on the ship. He already had a headache. He had hoped that it would be easier to navigate once he had escaped the ship's halls, but the gangway and space dock itself were worse. "Excuse me, I must, pardon me. My apologies." He grumbled to himself and appraised the massive crowds. They had not only filled the space dock itself, but the balconies of all the surrounding structures. There were hundreds, no, thousands, gathered to cheer for the heroic expedition. Rows and rows of station security stood behind barricades to keep the well-wishers away. Their formation pushed and pulled and strained against the eager crowd, but they blessedly held. Above them, floating in the air, were hideous projections of an insulting ceremony. He did not mind the fanfare or the cheering, but he could not stand the braggadocio of politicians and business people who took credit where they deserved none. The crowd's cheers were authentic, if someone ignorant of the true costs. He exhaled the thoughts and allowed himself to focus on what he thought were the better parts of the day. A meeting with you. He should have stayed on the ship. He came to a smaller, more somber group that had been allowed to gather nearest to the gangway. Families, friends, and lovers all gave their last goodbyes, untouched by the jubilation of the crowds a few dozen feet away and the audacity of the projections. They wept and held onto one another for as long as they could, but everyone knew their time was done and the moment was past. Revri could not watch. He had grown tired of goodbyes. "Excuse me, Enkinda. I have an errand to run before departure." "The crowd is rowdy. Be sure to return in no more than 4 hours." "I should not be gone that long. Thank you." Revri offered shy waves to the sea of people taking photographs or videos or begging for him to sign something. He smiled and nodded, but only to be polite. This mission gave nothing to the galaxy. It was strictly symbolic, a gesture of unity and cooperation for a galaxy scarred by conflict. He was horrified to find the fanfare worsened further from the ship. Those unable to get a good view wanted a souvenir. "No, I do not have time for photographs. Please, excuse me." He bouldered through a pack of insistent reporters who took their photos and shouted their questions anyway. "Do not touch my cloak. I have things that I must do. Farewell." He sped up and escaped down a nearby corridor. The station was a metroplex, meant for long-term habitation, and was designed much the same way a city would be, only stars decorated the roof of the place instead of a natural sky. He found such places frustrating and confusing, but he was glad for the mirrored bridges, alleyways, and corridors that he could escape through today. The location your brother had selected for breakfast was hidden away from the main thoroughfares. It would be quiet. He arrived at the humble cafe on the nearby empty street, glad no one tried to take his picture nor touch his cloak. A black and white tile composed the facade of the place, and there was a pair of empty wood tables sitting in front. To the side in an alleyway there was a fenced-off patio. He heard voices and laughter echoing out onto the street from behind the iron bars and smiled. It was you and your brother. Revri nodded to the host, who offered him a free beverage to celebrate the big day, but he declined. There was only one other person sitting at a table. They were watching the ceremony on a screen. Revri was surprised to find that he was still early. He must have gotten up earlier than he had thought. Was he really that excited to see you again? He hesitated as he reached the door to the patio. The way that you were laughing, the way your voice carried through the quiet place was much warmer than the night before, much kinder but wistful and distant. There was the familiar ache of nostalgia under each syllable, the longing for the morning of things that would never be again. Had he been wiser, he would have left, but he was helpless before you, and he opened the door. His eyes fell upon you and your brother, the patio's only occupants. He watched you swirl the straw in the glass while Gary stuffed his face with syrup-soaked foods and wiped crumbs from his chin. You were in the middle of recounting a story from your youth before Gary was born, but stopped when your younger brother jumped and waved at Revri. Revri! Oh, that's so good! Over! Here! He said between bites, crumbs falling from his face onto his shirt. You turned around and scowled a warning, but Revri did not heed it. What a coincidence, running into you here, Rev. You shot a glare that could gore at your brother. Good morning. Am I interrupting? Yes. Gary laughed and scooted to the side in an attempt to make room for Rev. No, not at all. You're early. I fucking knew it. You invited him? Gary nodded, blissfully unaware of, or not caring about, the syrup running down his chin and dripping onto his shirt. It seemed that that was the fate of his breakfast. Why? 'Cause he's cool and... He wiped the syrup from the corners of his smile. I figured you two could walk to the ship together, you know, as buds. No. I told you that this morning is just us. You turned to Revri with a little sympathy and plain anger. We can catch up on the ship. Revri wanted to speak but did not get the chance as Gary filled the silence. It's fine. Have a seat. I'm not gonna make you walk all the way here and then throw you out. His voice cracked and groaned under the weight of the words, and his smile was a hollow, empty thing. No. End of discussion. You turned away from Revri and skewered a piece of meat with your fork, blood and fat pooled on the plate. We're almost done with breakfast. Come on, it's not. I'm not budging on this. As you wish. I apologize for my intrusion. Revri bowed. He had hoped for companionship, but your dismissal was clear. Gary's smile strained. His eyes became misty and unfocused. He squeezed the glass in his grip, and it creaked. You should stay. Have a coffee or whatever it is that Pardachi drink in the mornings. His voice was a wind chime, all pleasant and sweet, but warning of an impending disaster. Tea. I will return to the ship and have a cup. Nonsense. You're already here. Sit. What are you doing? We can get him a bite to eat, yeah? You two can walk to the ship together and... No, I will see you later on the... He needs to stay, damn it! What the fuck is wrong with you? Sit, Jesus Christ, you're making a scene. I will go. You should stay. He sat through gritted teeth. Tears pulled on his eyes and ran down his cheek onto his shirt. His smile was a flimsy mask, desperate and wild. He pulled away from you. Please, stay. There was no smile, only empty eyes sunken in his face and tear-stained cheeks. Gary, what the hell? Your voice was full of worry, and you put your hand on his shoulder. Revri looked away, ashamed to bear witness. Gary took a long, slow breath and stared at the empty plates on the table. He did not speak, He trembled and whined. You frowned and leaned closer to him, your face mere inches away from his, but he could not look at you. I thought you two could walk to the ship together. That would be nice, yeah? His voice was almost inaudible. He hugged himself and withdrew, scared, terrified, and failing to hold himself together. He fell apart on his shirt. I'm fine. Revri nodded to you and tried to turn away. This moment was not for him. I will return to the ship. Farewell. Yeah, see you, Rev. No! He reached out and grabbed Revri's paw, trying to pull him back. Please, please stay. Urgency, desperation, anger, and fear fighting for control, but there was none to be had. He looked at his hands and recoiled at the sight of them and hid them in his pocket. I didn't mean... I'm sorry. Let's go. Okay. Gary and his seemingly endless joy had been defeated. I will meet you on the ship. Gary stared towards the ship, empty and cold and far away. Your anger slipped away when you looked at him. Wait. God damn it. You coming? He should have said no. Whatever was left to say should have been kept between brothers, not a mere stranger. But he had been asked. He had been given an excuse to be where he did not belong, and he took it. I will accompany you. Your brother's face remained empty and pale, a desiccated ruin. Thanks. Even his voice was empty. Gary trailed behind you as you paid and left. He kept his head down and eyes on his feet, his tears falling to the ground below. The street seemed quieter, even with the steady hoofbeats and footsteps bouncing off the walls. Revri could hear his heart beating. Gary sniffled as you cursing under your breath was the only thing to break the silence. When he had finally worked up the courage to ask where you were going, you turned down an alley and into a small park hidden from the street. Several rows of plants broke up the monotonous grays and whites, and two benches sat on opposite sides of a small fountain. It was a meditative and pensive place, at least, until you turned around. Your rage built on your face, ready to explode at any moment. Revri feared for your brother, but then the anger collapsed. You hugged him and did what you could to keep him put together. What's wrong? I'm not mad. I just don't know what's wrong. I'm sorry. For what? Dragging poor Revri everywhere? You sure you don't have a crush on him? What would Stella think, huh? You laughed, desperate to lighten the mood, to make this serious thing unserious, but there was nothing to be done. Can you tell me what's wrong? Gary shook his head and choked on a sob. I can't. This sucks. Please. I can't watch you get on that ship. What? I don't follow. I can't stand to see you get on that ship. I can't see you go. I won't. I won't. It's too much. Please don't make me. Anger swept away by worry. You embraced him. Hey, I'm right here. You're good. You're okay. He could not meet your eyes. Didn't we talk about this? We've had years to hash it all out and... Your arms fell limp to your sides and you looked away. You've known for years, Oh yeah, knowing when I'll never see you again makes it so much easier. Come on. I thought you were okay. Gary did not bother to fight the anger on his face. Okay? You think I'm okay? He shoved his finger in your chest. How am I supposed to be okay when my big brother is leaving forever? When I have to explain to my daughters that they'll never see you again? You're my best friend. He grabbed the sides of his head and screamed a terrible scream. He was not himself. You taught me how to shave. You helped me get through school, introduced me to my wife, took care of my kids. Now you're leaving. I am never gonna be okay again. You swayed on your feet and gripped your chest. Your mouth hung open, and you searched and searched but could not find the right words because they did not exist. Please don't say that. But it was too late to stop. He is not himself. He is afraid and angry, and he did not know the words that would keep you there with him. I'll wake up every day and think that I can't wait to talk to Duncan, and I can't. Every time something good happens, I'll think of you, and you won't be here. Tonight on my ship home, I'm gonna lay in my room and drink myself blind and cry till I can't breathe. I'm gonna miss my brother every day for the rest of my life, and that's not even the worst part. His face was a mire of anguish. His eyes passed over Revri and then fell back upon you. I'm so scared that you're gonna be all alone. And I got Stella and my kids, and shit, I even kinda like my neighbors. I'm gonna cry till I can't, and then I'm gonna cry even more, but I'll keep on keeping on. But I won't ever be okay again. I thought you were happy for me. I am happy for you. Fuck. Words failed him, so he shouted and kicked and spat on the ground until he could speak again. We're all so proud of you, me and Stella, and the girls, they don't get it yet, but they will. He put himself at arm's length and looked up into your face. Beneath the tears, there was pride and awe, and Revri realized that the stories that he told were not mythical retellings, but a eulogy, an effort to hang on to those feelings, to you, to who you once were, for as long as he could. I know this is right for you, but today's the worst day of my life. I'm sorry, I wish you could stay. Your brother turned away, braced for the moment to pass, but you became desperate and afraid. You reached out and begged for it to last a little longer, but the right words did not exist. Wait, we still have time. We can go find a bar, grab a quick drink. We can just talk, just a little longer. Please, please, I'm fucking begging you. Revri shut his eyes. He could not watch you fall apart. One more drink. A little more time. Stop. I won't get on the ship. We can go home. No. You have to go. I can stay. You can't. What would you even say? I'll try. Tell the same stories, order the same drinks, whatever you want. I can't do this anymore. Just stop. I'll try a little harder. You always say that. You won't. Is this about Emmy's birthday? No, it's everything. You're miserable here, and I'm worried. We're all worried. We'll do a big vacation, all of us girls, and you can't just make it all up on a fucking vacation. What happens after? You go back to this? Maybe we go out of Seoul. The girls have never been, right? Are you even listening? Something has got to change. I'll be fine. I am fine. I want you to be better than fine. Why are you making this so fucking difficult? I'm not trying to. Please. What are you trying to do? What do you want? If you look me in the eyes right now and say you want to stay, you can stay. You tried, but you could not hold his gaze. Your eyes floated towards that faraway place. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He put his arms on your shoulders and begged and pleaded. Go. I don't know what you're looking for, but I know that it's not here. But watching you work for this, hearing you talk about this, you came alive like I've never seen you, and it broke my heart knowing you have to go. But if you stay, I'm afraid that you'll just be stuck in the same place, on the same bullshit forever. I cannot watch you live like that. I don't know what happened, but you gotta go. I'm sorry. I tried. I really tried. We know. We are so proud of you. You're gonna do great. You're gonna be okay. His voice was a high whine. Anger had melted to grief and hurt, and your eyes had you in some faraway place. So go do this stupid fucking thing, please. He started to move away, but stopped beside Revri. Then he looked upon that poor, doomed man. His eyes was filled with warmth and a desperate plea and a stark warning that if he failed in this thing, that time and distance would become meaningless and he would feel the wrath of a brother wronged. The corners of his eyes glistened with tears, but he smiled all the same, and Revri thought that it must be the first time that he had ever had. He lingered in that moment, but it could not last. His eyes passed over you, over Revri and towards the ship, not at you but beyond it, to somewhere further away. His breath caught in his throat, and he strained against the urge to turn around, to throw his arms around you and dragged you home as you clenched your fists and hid your face, because neither of you could ever admit when there was nothing to be done. But there was nothing left to say, and the only thing left to do was start moving. He smiled over his shoulder, and you stared at his back while he hid his sobbing beneath a laugh. With one arm outstretched, you were paralyzed, reaching, searching, mouthing all the words that you knew, but none of them were right. Love ya. You're gonna be the best damn lifeguard ever. Then, the moment passed, and he let you go. Revri wanted to help you, to comfort you, a stranger, but he did not know how. The words did not exist. His cheeks were wet with tears, and his hooves were heavy. He could not reach you, but he would try. Duncan? Your eyes snapped to him and were so full of anger or pain that it rattled his tusks. You coughed and cleared your throat. We must go. Yeah. You pulled your cap over your eyes and walked off, staring at the ground. Revri followed close behind and did not let you out of his sight. He was afraid that you would disappear into the crowd and never resurface if you looked away for even a moment. But you did not disappear into the roar of the crowds. You did not notice the speeches or the cameras. None of that was real. None of that represented the real costs of unity or knowledge or whatever other made-up things it was supposed to be for. You only looked up when the security guard asked for your ID at the gangway. Your face was a slab of cold stone, a harsh contrast to the triumphant roar of the crowds. They waved you through, and Revri chased after, staring at your back. He reached for you and spoke as many words as he knew. Duncan, please wait. He apologized when he ran into someone, but you did not stop. Duncan, I would like to speak with you. But you kept moving further away, and nothing he would say would change that. He could not find the words that would part the crowds or stop you because they did not exist. But he would not be deterred. No matter what you said, he had to try and reach you. Finally coming out of the gangway, he searched for you, and just before you turned the corner, he spotted your bright orange jacket. His hooves beat against the floor, and he shouted after you again. Duncan, I must speak with you. Desperate, he reached out and grabbed your shoulder, and you stopped, but did not turn around. Please wait. What's up, Rev? I wanted to make sure that you are... He chewed on the words. The perfect ones did not exist, but they did not have to be perfect. Is there anything that I can do for you? I need some space, all right? Some time. I understand, Then we shall eat together later, or perhaps get a drink. I would happily join you. Or we could discuss farming techniques on alien worlds. I would be delighted to learn about our emergency communications procedures. He showed you his tusks, even though your back was turned. Maybe another day. You shook him off and started walking away. Revri should have let you go, but he could not. His hooves seemed to beat too loud on the metal flooring, His heart pounded in his ears. It was impossible to think. Every moment that he did not act was another moment that you drifted further away. If you did not know how to act, and if there was no perfect words, at least act boldly. I will come by later and see how you are doing. Your room is not far from mine. Shall I bring you anything? You finally turned to face him, and he showed you his tusks, and in a moment of selfishness, was glad that he had groomed himself so thoroughly. What? I will bring you something from the mess, or the canteen, if you would rather a beverage. I will get both. Did Gary put you up to this? Would explain a couple of things. No, I am acting on my own. You scratched behind your neck. You don't gotta babysit me. You are misunderstanding, Duncan Husales. I am asking if you would like, a date. The perfect words did not exist, but these once caught your attention and that was good enough. Are you serious? I would not joke about this. You're asking now. You have miserable timing, Rev. I have come to know you appreciate boldness. Wow. You laughed, closed the distance between the two of you, and punched his arm, not quite as gently as you had the night prior. Maybe not a date. How's drinking buddies sound? Aha! Drinking buddies, excellent. I must report to my post. Have a good He blinked and caught the words before they left him. I will be going now. Me too. See you around, Moon Eyes. He watched you go, still worried that he may never see you again. But when you turned around to wave at him, his worries faded away. He would see you soon. You had gotten onto the ship. Your decision was made. He fought the urge to send you a message. You said that you needed time. He should wait a day, maybe two. One would be fine. A few hours, at least. Revri shook his head and marched to his station with a guilty smile. How brazen to have such thoughts on a day like this, after all that you had endured. It was a long day and his smile did not last. Emotions ran high. There was a conflict between crew members, people getting lost in the ship, and at least one instance of someone vomiting from the stress. When he was not busy with that, he was in required training or watching presentations on emergency protocol and equipment usage and maintenance. All they did was pass the time, and again he would review protocols, pack, unpack, move, remove, necessary but forgettable work. With little else to think about, he found his thoughts drifted to you, a mix of worry and longing for your company. A pang of guilt ran through him at the selfish notion. But before he could enamor himself too shamefully, he was pulled away to help in another part of the ship, and blessedly, he made time to visit Hydro. He rather enjoyed that, the way the soil felt on his paws and how that not quite natural earthy scent filled his nose. It was the only green place on the ship and his only break in the day's labor. Revri did not notice the workday had ended until he found himself alone in a hallway. He felt a tired ache in his limbs and struggled to reorient himself, but he managed his way to one of the canteens on this level. Taken by another selfish notion, he imagined opening the door and seeing you inside, but it was not so. The room was half full and held by a pensive silence. Many had their heads bowed in meditation or prayer. A familiar face stood on a table and led a small grouping in some kind of prayer or memorial. He could not hear the words, but the cadence and the severity were unmistakable. Revri hurried to the counter and grabbed what he sought. He had hoped to escape whatever this was before his presence was noticed. He had already intruded upon a private thing once that day and did not want to do so again. We heard your song, brother. He wanted to flee, but to ignore a greeting such as this would be worse than blasphemy. We saw your dance, sister. She walked across the room with confident, authoritative steps. Her dress was colorful and vivacious, and she wore a thoughtful smile, the kind one wore at funerals. "You must be Revri. Have you come to join our vigil?" "No, my company has promised to another, How is it you know my name, sister?" "Call me Lupara. No need for formalities. Not many Pardacci ever left the cluster. Besides, it's my job to know my crew." He did nodded politely and turned away. "Of course. Farewell. I am expected elsewhere." She smiled, lowered her head, and returned to the corner to resume her prayers. The words becoming all too clear, he realized that he knew them all too well. He grabbed what he came for and left that sad place. His thoughts turned to you as he wandered the halls, his destination clear. He examined the can in his paw and rolled it around in his palm. Imbibing on a night like this seemed unwise, especially since there was so much work to be done tomorrow, but you had specifically mentioned drinking buddies. He would at least deliver this to you. Then again, you had not messaged him, and he guessed that your day was as exhausting as his. Between the physical labor and the emotional toll of the departure, no one had escaped the day unscathed. Doubt crept in, but he looked at the beer can and showed his tusks to nobody at all. The day had been long and challenging. You would enjoy a brief distraction. If you did not request his company, he would deliver the drink, the food, and say farewell. If you invited him in, well, that would be wonderful, but that was not his priority. He only meant to check on you. Revri felt energy returning to him as he walked the halls to your room. He even found it within himself to say hello to any crew that he passed by. Most said nothing, but it did not bother him. He was smiling as he arrived in your quarter. The hall was empty. Most had retired due to the excitement and business of the day. He came to your door and knocked. It took all of his restraint to keep from dancing on his hooves right then. But you did not answer the door. He knocked again. "Greetings, I have brought food and beer, as your drinking buddy." He waited and knocked again. After the fourth time, he realized that you either did not want to see him, or you simply were not there. Duncan?" Dejected and discouraged, and not knowing when to give up, he began to think on where he might find you, to make sure that you had a proper meal and fulfill his responsibilities as your drinking buddy. Well, he wandered in the direction of his room and had a realization and changed directions. At this late hour, the halls were vacant. Only a handful of crew were nocturnal, a thought that Revri allowed to drift through his consciousness on the lone walk to steel his nerves. The few grim faces that he saw did not bother him, but the one pair of smiling crew chattering on and on about the adventure that awaited them brought a brighter smile to his face, but they were the lonely exception. When he reached the door, he paused. Even if you were there, it would be wiser to leave you alone. You asked for time and space, yet here he was, seeking to intrude upon you. Again. He should go to his room. He could bring you your drink another day. But he opened the door anyway. The lights were low, the furniture and facilities became more silhouettes, and the pool itself looked dark and foreboding with only the barest light reflecting the surface. Then he looked to the lifeguard tower. Someone sat in the shadows with their head down, eyes fixed to the water. The door closed behind Revri with a swish, and the little light that existed became dimmer still. Pool's closed. Sauna's open. No running or whatever the fuck, who cares? You said with your head in your hands. Good evening, Duncan who sails. His hooves clacked as he approached. Rev? I didn't take you for a swimmer. I am not. Then what the hell are you doing here? How'd you find me? You climbed down from your tower and walked across the otherwise silent room. You said that there must always be a lifeguard on duty. You might have smirked in the dark. I did. He showed you his tusks and extended his paw. The silver blue can of the lukewarm beer glittered in the low light. I brought you a beer and a meal. I believe this is the kind that you'll like. Oh, thanks. You looked back at the tower. May have killed a pack already, but, You took the can and cracked it open. Won't say no. Will you be okay tomorrow? That is a significant share of alcohol. Yeah, trust me. I am a prolific drinker. You threw back your head and drank deep. Revri looked at you with no small amount of concern. When you looked back at him, you stopped drinking and wiped your lips. That's a joke. I'll be fine, thanks. Revri bounced on his hooves and showed you his tusks. You smiled back at him while he composed himself. I will leave you now. Hey, wait, wanna hang out? Here, have a seat. I do not wish to intrude. You said that you needed space. I will give it to you. I say shit all the time. Come sit. Once settled, you murmured thanks and began to poke away at the meal that he brought. You would look at him and open your mouth to say something, but the words never came. Revri did not mind. He was glad to have the company, even the quiet kind. Would you like to talk? I understand today was trying for you. You laughed into the can. God, no. I think I'll stick to drinking. You tilted the can towards him and winked. I trust your judgment, but I will reiterate, I do not think that this is healthy. You sputtered and wiped the beer off of your chin. Right, that was another joke. Anyways, a good day at work? They keep you busy? Yes, but otherwise uninteresting. Same. Once again, silence. You or Revri would try to revive the conversation from time to time, but eventually you settled into the comfortable stillness. It seemed so normal, so natural, good even to be doing nothing but being near each other. He could not tell how long you sat there, saying nothing. Only the mechanical whirl of some unseen contraption in the walls and the drip of water broke the silence. It was a welcome catharsis after the day's events. Revri jumped when your hand found his paw. I'm glad that we're hanging out. You turned towards him and looked into his eyes. Beneath the thick chlorine, he caught the heady scent of alcohol. He began to regret bringing you that beer. Sorry about earlier. I only regret not being able to give you the privacy that you wanted. I feel that it was a mistake for me to allow myself to be strung along. Although, I did find a guy to keep me company. You laughed and squeezed his paw, and the place felt less sad. You didn't stand a chance anyhow. Gary's a doofus, but when he really wants something, he'll make it happen. You leaned over, briefly resting your head on his arm. You're a real sweet guy. Gary was right about that. Revri tensed when your face pressed against his bicep, and what he had only suspected before he was confident of now. You were drunk. You spoke of me after we parted ways? Yeah. He was up advising me while you and me texted. He focused on the subtle whirling and dripping, but not your touch. He was always playing wingman. Said he owed it to me because I introduced him to his wife. The stillness broke and he moved away. He missed your warmth. At a bar, celebrating him getting out of college, Gary wanted to give up, but I kept saying no. Now they're married with kids. Can hardly believe. I forgot Emmy's birthday. I didn't mean for this. Stuff used to make sense. I knew what I was doing. It was good. I really tried to help, tried to be good. I did my best. The things you needed to say but could not burst forth. And how am I supposed to pretend things are normal. After all that, everyone's just going on like it didn't even happen. Like we're all just okay now. But I'm not okay. I'm not okay at all. Nothing's normal, or alright, or... Fuck this. You crushed the can in your grip and threw it across the room then. With a tremendous roar, you told a cold and uncaring universe exactly how you felt. Fuck you. I'm not okay. The air grew colder. You drifted further away and took a long, ragged breath that could break glass or rend steel. I got a great family, a good job. I'm a big... You sat back down and sucked air through your teeth and let the word cut your tongue. A big hero. But what am I even doing? I forget my niece's birthday and I'm not happy. I don't feel like a hero. I feel fucking crazy. I can't do it. I'm fucking crazy and... What if this isn't right? What if I'm fucking up and... I'm sorry. You hide your face in your sleeves. Fuck. I'm sorry. I'm drunk and I'm a mess. I don't know. For whatever it is worth, from a near stranger. He took your hand and could feel your heartbeat in his palm. I am certain that you did your best, and that we are all better for it. Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you with it. Revri squeezed your hand. I could go if you need time alone. No, wait, You become small and withdraw. You sounded far away. Please, stay. You look at him, and he thought that you were afraid, but most of all lonely, and he understood. But I don't want to be a bother, or a bummer, or whatever it is that I am. Your hand slid away, but he did not let you go. He took it and drew you back with a smile. Is it not the role of a drinking buddy to listen to their companion's woes? Yeah, guess it is. Just don't want to make the whole night me drinking and crying. Perhaps I could get you some water? You moved closer to him and allowed yourself to lean on his arm. Your body relaxed and then you laughed. Water's a good idea. He happily retrieved it for you, but kept glancing over his shoulder to make sure that you did not disappear. When he returned, you emptied the plastic bottle in a few seconds and wiped your chin again. I was wondering about something. Why'd you hit on me in the bar? How'd you even know that I like men? Revri shrugged and scratched his chin. I saw you and found you attractive. I took a calculated risk. Is that not enough? I forget humans are so particular with their partners. You snorted and shoved him. Okay, fine. But what made you put up with my stupid brother for so long, with me? You sure I'm worth the trouble? Your eyes held a glimmer of something Revri did not yet recognize. Were you making a joke or hoping for more? He mulled this over as he considered his answer. You were staring out the window. The light was in your eyes, and I felt that you were... He paused, unable to find the right words. There was something there, something drawing me to you, something only you saw. I had to know. In my eyes? They were thoughtful and full of wonder. They held the moon and all that it promises, but then I looked again. Then I thought you looked sad and lonely. It seemed such a wrong thing. I was determined to make you smile. Arrogant and foolish, yes. That an oaf like myself could make the moon smile. He ran his thumb over the back of your hand. Your breath was caught in your throat. You looked down at the water and smiled. A strange thing in this dark and lonely place. You did make me laugh. A whisper. I still do not know what you saw, but I know that it was a thing far away and lonely, and it only existed in your eyes, and I could not live without seeing it too. You looked at your reflection in the water and whistled. Wow, you were thinking all that and you still went with Hey Moon Eyes? If Hello Moon Eyes made you laugh, you would have chased me from the bar had I said all that I was thinking. You leaned closer, grabbing his paw and moving your hand up to his arm and towards his chest. Again, your face found his arm, and he tensed as the smell of alcohol and chlorine entered his nose. I'm glad that you came over. You really are sweet and handsome. Your words are kind, but you are drunk. Shit. I'm sorry. Fuck. Sorry, Rev. That was... Do not worry. I understand. Today has been emotionally taxing. Everyone copes in their own way. However, on our next date, you will be sober, and I will revel in your passions. All of them. Revel in my passions? You laughed a full and hearty laugh and fell onto your back as you caught your breath. You're so... Oh, hell. I don't know. But I like it. I have made my interest clear, Duncan who sails. Yeah, guess you have. But I don't think that I'm ready to date. With the mission and all the stuff with my brother, I'm not in the right place for it. Revri could not hide his disappointment, and had he known you better, he would have acted differently. I understand. He pulled his paw away, dejected and doomed to play your game. I will give you space that you require. But you did not let him go. What? Hey, where are you going? Just because I don't want to date you, not now. Maybe later, but... Fuck it, I'm drunk, damn it. You want to just... hang out? Like as friends? I mean it, Rev. I like you. Now's just, a challenging time. But I mean it. I want to see you again. Hang out. You looked down and could not meet his eyes as you tangled your hand around his paw. I could really use my drinking buddy. What a cruel and vicious blow. He had no choice. You appraised the empty cans beside you and looked red with shame towards the lifeguard tower and at the empty can that floated across the surface of the water. Drinking buddy still counts for water. Revri showed you his tusks. He believed every word that you said. Drinking buddies. And friends. You raised your empty can for a silent toast, and you allowed the stillness to wash over you again. Revri smiled, your offer of friendship salving the rejection. Friends. Wonderful. It would be good to have a friend on the ship. Just friends, he thought, not knowing what the glimmer in your eyes meant, not knowing what that half-smile promised. He was doomed from the start. An announcement played over the intercom and the few remaining lights shut off, leaving you both in the dark. Well, I got a long day tomorrow. Thanks for being here. I don't deserve your company. That is not for you to decide. No? Come on. The two of you walked through the darkened halls towards your room. There was another moment of stillness between you and Revri. It lingered on your lips, but you let it pass. Night, Rev. Sleep well, Duncan. Before Revri made it back to his room, he had received a message from you. You were complaining about a pushy coworker and how a last-second change added to your workload. Revri replied with empathy and shared his own experiences. His day had been better than yours. He even briefly met one of the ship's commanders, though he neglected to mention the context of that sad meeting. He smiled at the ceiling. It would be good to have a friend on the ship. His mind began to wander to the question of what if they were more, but he was distracted by your constant messages. This would not be the last night the two of you talked the night away, messages coming and going through until one of you got too tired to reply and fell asleep. Revri rolled onto his stomach and began to drift to sleep. Friends, good friends, were hard to come by. Only friends. But as he slipped into a dream, he could not help but wonder and hope, what if it was more? And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So we finally know why Gary wanted Revri to stick around with him and Duncan. And it's out of concern for Duncan and probably knowing the way he is, which is like, as you'll see throughout the story, you'll note that Gary is very sort of like he'll love you, but he'll also keep you at arm's length. And it sometimes might not be intentional, and it's sometimes because he gets too caught up in what he's doing, what he thinks is right and whatnot. And in Gary's own words, he's worried about Duncan. Gary has his wife, Stella, who he's like very in love with, and he has 2 girls, and he even likes the neighborhood that he lives in. But Duncan doesn't have anybody. Duncan is gonna be alone in this new place in space. And Gary knows Duncan, that he's probably just gonna stick to himself. He's gonna go off and do his little rescue missions by himself. He's gonna do everything by himself. And the moment that he saw that this Boar alien person found his brother interesting, he's like, oh, I need to keep this guy with us so that they both basically stick together on this whole voyage, so that I know that my brother is at least not alone. So that was the whole purpose of keeping Revri there, much to Duncan's chagrin. But at least it was an admirable thing. And at least Revri knows why he was allowed to stick around. Even though it was a little awkward, that whole scene, but at least he knows. It also sucked that Revri kind of accidentally spilled the beans when it was clear that Duncan did not want to talk about the whole thing where for these 2 guys it's gonna be basically just 2 weeks of travel, and then they're gonna arrive at where they're gonna arrive. But for Gary's gonna be long gone. His daughters are probably gonna also be long gone, or maybe they're gonna be super old by the time that these 2 arrive at their destination. And that was one of the things that was sort of weighing heavily on Duncan and Gary. And he's like, you can't read the room, can you, Revri? But yeah, also you can see that Revri is really into Duncan. And Duncan's gonna take advantage of that a little. And again, this is probably part of his personality where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna keep people at arm's reach, but I kind of think that it was unintentional what he's gonna be doing to Revri. But yeah, at least they had the talk. Well, they had a little bit of a talk where Duncan clearly shows to Revri that he likes the Pardace, but that he may not be ready yet in order to, go into a relationship just this quickly. But as the narration says, it's gonna be kind of like this is kind of like a game for Duncan. And Revri may not be too jazzed about that, as you're gonna see. But anyway, so what did you think? Write it down in the comments, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Hey Moon Eyes yourself or stay up to date with whatever is going on with it, you can do so by going down to the link in the description, which have a direct link for the itch.io page where you can download and play the game yourself. If you would like to support the project, if they have any form of support, like a Patreon or a Ko-fi, I will link that down in the description as well. If you would like to support the channel, you can become a channel member, which gives you earlier access to these videos as they're being scheduled. And like I said in the previous video, this is going up on the 22nd of May, but for the public at large, they will not be seeing it until basically the second half of June, I think. So yeah, you become a channel member, you get to watch the videos that are scheduled ahead of time, before they're ever released to the public. And you might be saying well, why can't the public see the scheduled videos? Because they're scheduled. I have a schedule. I don't like to just dump videos out as soon as I record them or edit them, I mean. But like, yeah, you know. What else? Hey, if you can't, you know, support through that, then, you know, just give the video a like or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do have a Ko-fi in case you do want to monetarily support. It is not necessary, but like it is very appreciated. Any form of support is appreciated. You know, comments too also help. Engagement. What else? I do have a throne. So yeah, I do have something on there that I really, really would like. And yeah, you know, somebody buys it, I will live stream building it. But yeah, anyway, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.